ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber, and joining me as always is my awesome co-host, Delicious Dwaylen Davis.
Hey, everybody.
Like your shirt says, just do
Just
it.
do it.
Let's do it. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look back at the year 2022 because,
hmm
well, I don't know. In wrestling, I think it was may have been kind of boring. I don't know. Nothing happened at all.
No, nothing. Just
Nothing.
nothing at all.
So just some of the, at least one of the biggest news stories ever in wrestling,
Yeah.
along with a couple other ones, which would have been really big had they not been overshadowed by the big one.
Yep.
Woo. And, we'll just kind of take a look at wrestling in general. And then also, how the show itself has actually kind of evolved quite a bit from where it
Yeah.
was, last year at this time.
hmm
And, and I'll go ahead and get this out of the way early, get our contact and listening info because I have notes and I have a lot of notes and you can, I mean, um, but if you would like to email the show, but anything at all, if you want to give us any kind of suggestions, if you have any kind of comments, anything like that whatsoever, email the show at armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on Instagram also at armchairbookingpodcast. You can find us on Twitter at bookingarmchair. You can find us on TikTok at armchairbooking. Yeah, we seriously need to do something with that at some point because I've been trying
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just cannot think of anything to record, but I will. If you're watching on YouTube, that's the only video platform that I know of that we're on. But as far as audio platforms go, we are on just about any kind of audio platform you can think of. If we're not there, let us know. We will do what we can to get ourselves added. And I'm still trying to get us on Pandora and just not having any luck. I don't know what the trick is that. It's weird. You got to go to it through another third
Yeah.
party. Yeah, it's odd. But if you want to find Dwaylen on social media, you can always go to his Twitter at fat_daddy73 because he is Fat Daddy. His wife Hope is Big Mama, and they also
That's right.
have their YouTube and TikTok, which is Big and Fat, Big Mama Fat Daddy. Get it? Yeah, see? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I see what you
Yeah.
did there.
Yeah.
You can find merch for this podcast at tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. You can also find my other podcast, my non-wrestling podcast, which is the Cubicle Chat. Just go do a search on it. And as a bonus, if you go to Apple Podcasts and if you give us a 5-star rating and a review, a written review, we will read it on the air. And
That's right.
we've done it.
We've
And
done it. Yeah.
yeah, we have done it. And I know there's actually a review that is due to come in anytime. It's from one of our friends in Canada. I finally saw the review on another website, which actually gives the ratings of what you are
hmm
in the UK and Ireland and the US. And his review showed up there on that site, but it has not showed up in the
Okay.
Apple Podcast app. It's really, really odd.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but either way, Spotify, you can't actually give a rating. You just can't give a review. But if you want to send us feedback, like I said, armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com.
hmm
And I will, as long as you tell me we're 5 stars. Now, if you tell us we suck, I don't know if I'll be reading that. I'll be honest with you. But the 5 stars, yeah, I will definitely read those on the air. Send it to Dwaylen. He'll read it on the air.
Absolutely.
So I think I've gotten everything.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Real quick, I kind of want to give an update on Ted. We always give a shout out to all the other podcasts, but this one's a little special, a little different. We announced last week Ted and his family lost everything in a house fire, and
Yeah.
there is a GoFundMe. I have posted the link for it. Their goal was $1,000. Well, when I donated, they were already close to 4,000.
Wow.
So
That's
that
great.
that tells you how
Yeah.
well liked Ted is, and
hmm
somebody had actually donated 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I'm
um,
glad because he's a good dude. He really
yeah,
is,
he
and
is.
I hate that. Especially I hate that for him anytime, but especially this time of year.
Yep. And you of all people know what it's like, unfortunately, to have
A-
that exact thing happen. So,
Absolutely.
but he has reached out. to him and he told me thank you. He actually gave me the link. His son actually set up the GoFundMe, and so I made sure to pass it on Twitter and Facebook. So hopefully people were able to use that to donate even more. And
Hmm.
just a super good dude all around. He is the true Podfather. Everybody knows it. And you go check him out. He's kind of taking a little bit of a hiatus while this is going on, which I mean
Yeah.
I think everybody it's very understandable.
Understandable.
Yep. He only checked Twitter the other day just to check messages, basically. Because people he knew were
Right.
sending him messages through Twitter, and we go check out his podcast. We go check out his back episodes, The Hill Truth.
Yeah.
Just awesome, awesome podcast. So, and we'll mention Ted some more along with some other podcasts as we go through this because man, I was looking through our episodes just to kind of start this off. Last year at this time, 1 year ago today, we had never done a video episode.
True. Yeah.
Our
Yeah. Because
very first, yeah,
yeah.
our very first episode of this year was our very first on video.
Hmm.
We got brave and we were kind of encouraged by watching other people put theirs on video, and it's like, you know
Yeah.
what? Yeah, they're doing it. They're doing great. Let's go for it because we can't let this. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like you said one day, it's just too much face. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that's why we have the beards because it's yeah.
it's just too much face. I mean, uh, and so we said, we got to get over that, and and it's since then that's also evolved because when I first started doing the video, I was sitting at a totally different part of my house, and
Hmm.
so it actually I was sitting in my living room. The front door was behind me, and unfortunately, every once in a while, somebody would be walking through the door taking the dogs out.
Yeah.
And my son would always walk behind us at some point.
Yeah. I actually missed the Leighton walkthrough though. It's like he would
Yeah.
just kind of walk through, look at the camera and just like keep going. Like I
Yep.
just wanted you to know I was here.
Yeah. Kyle used to call that the Leighton run in because even when, every single episode, he would find at some point to run it, to come in and make
Right.
noise. And, and that was when I was actually recording it because it was just audio. I was recording it
Hmm.
just sitting in the bed because a lot of times we record it and then I'll immediately close the laptop and go to sleep,
Right.
because of,
Like, well, I'm done.
yeah, I'm done. It's time to go to sleep because I mean I was pretty tired by that time. I would just make
Right.
sure it got uploaded correctly, and then I was like, okay. I was like, I'll do the editing tomorrow. you know, and but now I'm in my office, and as you can tell, I mean, I have stuff behind me. I've got there's a bunch of Rubik's Cube type puzzles. There's a couple of belts here, which we'll talk about them as well. Brand new Christmas present that I showed.
Awesome.
Yeah, I sent you that picture earlier. The Rubik's Cube Funko Pop.
Hmm.
That was courtesy of, I believe, my son picked that out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Leighton actually picked that out. So, which he knew I would like it. And I don't know if he expected me to give it back to him.
He probably did.
because I mean, he really collects Funko Pops.
Oh,
You know
okay.
that because every time he gets a new one, I send you a picture. Say, hey, look what
Hmm.
you finally got.
Yeah.
And, because you collect Funko Pops.
Yep.
So this just shows you we are multifaceted. We're not just about wrestling.
Nope. Not at all.
Yep. But since this is the wrestling show, you can also see Chris Harris is right behind me still. And the New Day is right behind my head too. Actually, the New Day, they are right behind. Here are some cubes. I can't really grab them without breaking my neck, but it's Chip and Dale Rubik's cubes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Tawana actually got those the last time she was in Orlando, and
Oh,
there's
okay.
apparently there's a series of them. So Avery is actually going to get the rest of them. Because they weren't sure if
Cool.
I like them. I'm like, they're cubes. They're Disney.
Exactly.
Of course, I'm going to like them.
Like, what's not
So
to like? Yeah.
yep. So I have Chip and Dale, and apparently there's Mickey and Minnie and some other ones. Um, but yeah, so I mean that's some of the stuff for Christmas. I mean, how was your Christmas?
It was good. My wife got me a replica of Thor's hammer, which is
Ooh.
sitting on
Oh
my
yeah,
shelf
you did.
right here.
You sent me the picture of it.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've got Savannah got me a Snoop Dogg Funko Pop. Caden got me Paulie from Sopranos. He got me the pop
Okay.
of that one because they came out with a line of those. Abby got me some earbuds. Kids had a great Christmas. Hope had a good Christmas. So it was good.
Well, heck yeah. And whoo, and I'm just when I was going through how we started, with the video,
Hmm.
and the very first one we did, and it was almost kind of an experiment just to see how we would like it, and
Yeah.
we did a review of day one, which I
Hmm.
still don't know what to think about that pay per view, but either way, I mean
Well, I don't know, but I know they're not doing another one because
no,
that got taken off the schedule for next year. So
yeah, so but our very next um podcast, our very next episode was something that we tried to do again, just trying to get, but you have to get everybody's schedule aligned. It's when we did
hmm.
the I don't even know if you want to call it an interview, but it was Noah Gabriel and Sinclair Octavius Bentley, two of our favorite guests, actually. You know,
Yeah, it was more of like a face to face. They had a match coming up at that time for the at the time Sinclair was the tri-state champion.
hmm
Noah had been chasing him, and we had them on the show for kind of a face to face interview
yep,
between the with both of them. I thought it went really well.
yep,
It was like you said, it was the first one we'd done like that, but I look forward to doing more.
yep. It's a matter of trying to arrange, um,
Yeah,
because we do it because they're promoting a match coming up, but that also
right.
means you have you can't do it too far in advance.
Hmm.
So you want to get it as close as possible, but you also want to get it usually. I think because we did that one on a Monday, and the match was
Yeah,
the following Saturday, which made
yeah,
perfect sense. So
right.
um, and that was also, I believe, the only episode we've ever done or an interview or with anybody, any kind of form like that, where it was 100% kayfabe.
Yes, I believe
Yep,
you're right. Yep.
yep. Because I mean, we've had some where it was kind of a mixture. We've had some where it was
Hmm.
100% not kayfabe. Um,
Yeah.
and after the debate, that's when we talked to Sinclair about our next big project that we'd been talking about for a few months.
Hmm.
And
Right.
Sinclair was on board. Unfortunately, he couldn't make the actual
He
thing,
couldn't
but
make. Yeah.
you know, um, it was the panel show we had, and we had Joe Pro James, Devin Graves, and Matt Big Strong Mims, and it was for
Yeah.
Black History Month, but it was them
Hmm.
discussing their experiences in
Right.
wrestling, and some of the things they've been through being black.
Right.
About
Exactly.
the best way. I can't think of any other way
Yeah.
to put it. So um, that one was a lot of fun. I think that one had me more nervous than any other show because I really, really wanted it to go well.
Right.
Um, and for a lot of reasons. Um, and then we were able to have Sinclair on the next week because
Right.
he wasn't able to make the big panel show. But he still came back on, and the next time he came on, he was still Sinclair. And if you know him, he is one of the funniest people you could ever
Oh
be
God,
around.
he is hilarious.
And
Yeah, love having him. Always love having him on the show because
yeah,
always guaranteed to have a good time. With Sinclair's
yep.
on your show.
But he's probably one of the most undersung people in wrestling as far as he has a great
Hmm.
wrestling mind. And he can
Yes.
explain a lot of things, from a what's really going on. And
Hmm.
he's done that before, and we need to have him back on the show. But I mean, he stays busy. I don't know that
He
man.
does. Yeah,
Whew, um,
he's always busy.
Yeah, he's always got the hustle going on. I mean, he's got like 3 or 4 jobs, Uh, so, and of course, wrestling, well, he's got to. I mean, he's got to maintain that lifestyle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, um, but I was sitting there looking through real quick and I was making an count. And if I counted right, we had 15 episodes where we had guests.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, and we actually went through for a couple of months, we didn't have any guests. So if that tells you, I mean, how packed it
Yeah.
was in the first half of the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll give the most notable ones, of course, Buff,
Yeah.
Buff
Yep.
Bagwell. Wildcat Chris Harris was
Yep.
2 days or the next, it was either one day or 2 days later.
I think it was
Um,
2 days later. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Roger Ruffin.
Roger Ruffin. Yep.
Yep. And um, we had the return, for one episode only. Well, so far, because I'm pretty sure he will be back again. I know that at some point. Kyle, the former co-host, we had him as
Yeah.
a guest
Yep.
discussing Arn Anderson. That was a
Yeah.
good time, because that was the first time you and
It
Kyle
was.
actually met, and so I
Yeah.
mean, it was just nothing but fun talking about wrestling all around. Uh, but I can say, some of the other guests we had. Um, Here's the weird thing: we had Trey and we had Jake. At the time, they
hmm
were on um, the TNC Sports Talk, but the Jay and Trey
Yeah.
show. Now, neither one of them are even on that anymore. Now, Justin is the only
Right.
one, doing the TNC Sports Talk. Which, by the way, I'm repping his shirt right now. Um, and
hmm
he hit me up the other day. He said he's shooting for Monday, uh, bringing the show back, and it's
Oh,
going to be.
cool.
He's trying to go Monday through Friday, um, like 6 to 8 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I'm like, well, I can try because I mean he'll be on YouTube. I mean he'll be live. I'm
hmm
like,
Yeah.
well, that's during the time I drive to work, so
Yeah.
I may not
Yeah.
be able to catch all of it. But I'll certainly try. And Justin, he's a very good speaker, and he has a great sports mind, and he's
hmm
one of those dudes. I mean, he could just keep track of stats with like
Yeah.
sports, and I know he does a lot of research to make sure they know what's going on. So I'm looking forward to him being able to do that again. Um, I still keep in touch with Trey. Trey's actually going to be at the Mount Orb show on the 7th.
Oh, is he?
Yep,
Cool.
yep. So he's never been to Mount Orb. He's never been to the sports complex that they have there. So I did
hmm
give him a heads up because Trey, if you've kept up with our show, we talked about Trey. Trey has muscular dystrophy, and
hmm
he uses a
Yep.
scooter, to get around. I did have to let him know. I was like, "Hey, the parking lot's gravel." And so I just want to give
Right.
you a heads up so you don't get caught off guard by that. Um, and he's like, "Oh, thanks for letting me know." He said it should be fine. It's just a matter, the wheelchair and Courtney, his girlfriend. Um, she does a lot of. I mean, she does a great job of making sure that he's taken care of. But it's just the parking lot. I mean, once they get inside, I mean, they're golden. Um,
Right.
but but some of the other ones we've had, this year, we've had Noah on a couple times. We've had Big Mama back on the show because she was promoting the women's revolution. Yeah, that was the pay per view, wasn't it? The women's,
hmm
yeah, Revolution Rising. Yeah, try to think because there's so many pay per views, or actually for them it's not really a pay per view, but it's a big event. Um,
Yeah.
like somebody with very similar names, but they're the women's revolution. I think it was Revolution Rising. Uh, that was a great card. It had a match with Nikki Victory and Kylie Ray that,
Okay. Yeah.
oh my God, that match was amazing. And, now Nikki Victory, she's been on AEW Dark a few times. She was on
Yeah.
there before then. She's becoming a
She's
regular
getting to
on
be a
there.
regular on there now. Yeah.
Yep. So, If you've never seen Nikki Victory, go look her up. Nikki Victory, and you won't be disappointed because she was one Roger Ruffin said during the interview. He said Nikki Victory has no ceiling,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah. But some of the other ones we had Great King Titan. The last one we had Mr. Destiny. Um, who am I missing here? I know we've got some other ones because I'm trying to think. It was just this year because right before the new year we were doing interviews like every week. It seemed like.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know what? I'll have to go back and actually look at the titles of the shows because I mean we've done so many of them that honestly I can't remember. But what are some of the things that you think of over the past year that kind of stands out to where where we started to where we are now?
Just the growth in, our YouTube channel. Like thank
Hmm.
you to everybody who has subscribed. I mean, our, subscriber numbers on YouTube, have jumped quite a bit. We were trying to
Yep.
hit that 100 mark so we could have an actual real URL instead of just the random,
Yeah.
computer generated numbers they gave us. And
By the
we
way,
did that last time.
it's still given. You can do a search. You can actually give a link with the URL, but
Hmm.
for some reason the random stuff is still kind
Oh,
of
okay.
there. So I
Yeah.
guess we have both. I'm still not sure how
Yeah.
that works, but I tried
But
changing it.
at least
They
people
can
can
search
search
and
us
find it.
now. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and as far as on audio, the listens have been just, how many people have been listening to us has grown quite a bit. That's been amazing also.
And quite a few different countries too, because we're starting to grow
Yeah.
a listener base in Canada. Thank you to BC and um. Oh, dude, I'm getting so old. BC and oh, I feel like such a idiot because they just had us on their show and we had a great time. Um, Jay, is it Jay? No, yeah. Oh God, they were such great guys too. When he had all the belts behind him,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank as well. And I apologize for that because we had a great time on that show.
and we're trying to get them on our show as well. Yeah, Jay Myers, BC Hunter, Jay Myers.
Yeah.
Duh. Say it every week, and I don't know if it's just Christmas, New Year's, lame duck week that
Uh,
just kind of got me.
it's yeah, it's been a long few weeks. So
Yeah, yeah, because some of the stuff at work, going from back in September, in October, all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, can we give
hmm.
those updates?" And it's like, really? Do you really need that updated? And of course, this is
Yeah, do
coming
you
from
need
way
it right
up.
now?
It's like, do you even
Yeah.
need it? Because we're trying, and this, of course, they hit right at the time when everybody is taking vacation because they have vacation days they need
Hmm.
to burn. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, BC and J, we hit that 100 subscriber right after we were on their show. So,
Hmm. Yep.
um, it was that, I think that actually contributed to it because I mean we tripled like overnight, so I think that had a lot
Oh
to do
yeah.
with it. Um, a coworker of mine, she dropped a link. She's a big gamer. She doesn't even watch wrestling, but she did me a
Hmm.
solid and she dropped the link in one of her message boards and she's like, "Hey, go follow, go subscribe to my buddy's page if you're, especially if you're a wrestling fan." I think that may
Yep.
have been a contributor, and so we've come to find out we've got people who have been kind of looking out for us, and so I try to look out for them as
Yeah.
well. Um, but yeah, BC and Jay, I mean they put on a great show, Wrestling with the Truth. You have Ted the Hill Truth, and then you have Wrestling with the Truth. But yeah, they're out of Nova Scotia. I've noticed
Hmm.
that our listeners in Canada have actually increased. Some. Um,
Yeah.
we have some listeners in India, like quite a few listeners in India. Um, some listeners in the United Kingdom, and I say united because we were hitting them up in Scotland and in England. So it wasn't just
Hmm.
well, now it's over the past 30 days, it's just been in England, but we have hit some in Scotland as well. And then some other places. I mean, like
Right.
onesie twosies, here and there, all over the United States. Because I could just pull that up and look, and I'm like, oh, look, some people in Wyoming listen to us. Awesome. Now
Yeah.
sometimes I want to tell people, can you like email us and let us know who you are, because we like to know who our listeners are, so we can kind of give them a shout out, tell them hi
Right.
if we can, and so. Um, but what else? I mean, because I mean, it's hard to pinpoint. There's not been just one big thing. There's been like a lot of things. I feel.
Yeah. As far as in wrestling itself, probably the biggest story probably that there's ever been was the Vince
Yeah,
McMahon scandal. I mean, I
yeah,
mean,
that is my
you
number
know,
one.
Wall Street News was the one who broke the story and just wow. Um, it was just crazy.
And it was like
Just
every
I
couple of
mean,
days, it was something new adding to it.
yeah, yeah, there was just more and more getting added to it. And it was like, okay, it's like, everybody had their opinions of Vince, but nobody this type of behavior. And I mean, he spent, tens of millions of dollars of basically hush money to keep these women from, telling their story of their encounters with him. And it's like, and not just him, but old clown shoes John Laurinaitis was involved in that as well. Of course, he was the first one on the chopping block, which we knew he would be. But
Yeah.
hopefully, John Laurinaitis is never involved in professional wrestling again. Hopefully, Vince McMahon is no longer involved, is not involved in professional wrestling again. Which he was trying to make. He's trying to make a comeback, and then yet another story came out. Another woman came forward talking about how much, you know, she had been paid to keep quiet and things like that. And it's like, Vince, and like however they want to spin it is them. It's a corporate thing, corporate culture or whatever. They want to spin it like Vince McMahon just gracefully retired and all this because he was 77 years old, which when he stepped down, he hadn't turned 77 yet, even though he tweeted that at 77 it was time to, step away. No, you basically you step down in disgrace because you stepped down before they could make you step down.
Yep. There's the back door. Please quietly exit.
Yeah. Please quietly leave or we'll just publicly make you leave. Which choice is yours. So he
Yeah.
chose the quieter route.
And it
But
still came out in public.
that is it still came out, but it is
Yeah.
definitely a stain on the legacy of not only Vince McMahon, but the legacy of WWE as a whole. Um, I do think with Triple H at the helm, I think they can move past that as long as they don't give in and let Vince come back because these actions are extremely serious and very, very predatory. And
Hmm.
it's just disgusting the things that we found out.
Yeah, because when you mentioned John Laurinaitis, Vince was having, well, one of his many affairs that they were, having to file non-disclosure
Hmm.
agreements with. Well, they didn't have to file, but they were filing non-disclosure agreements with. Well, one of the things
They,
after he got done
yeah,
with her, he's like he passed her on to John Laurinaitis, and
yeah. It's like these are women, these are human beings.
hmm
It's not a pair of shoes you're letting your buddy borrow, or tools or whatever. It's like you don't just pass somebody on to someone else. And uh just uh it's gross.
Uh, and and of course, if you notice, when Laurinaitis came back, all of a sudden you saw the quality of the women's product go. "Ew."
Yep.
Ever since
Yep,
he's
because he
left.
went back to the same MO.
In
Yep. Yeah,
fact, I
because
want it's got even better than
the
what it was
women's division
before.
in WWE. Oh yeah, because John Laurinaitis, as soon as he came back, yeah, he started with the you know quantity over quality type thing, and was only worried about the women's sex appeal and not what they could do in the ring or on the microphone. And the product suffered. And then once he got ousted, hopefully for the last time, imagine all of a sudden the women's division goes back up in quality. And they
Yep.
quit focusing so much on the sex appeal and more on the in ring work and the character work and things like that. And imagine that it got better.
And did the Queen's Crown tournament, was that part of this year or was that like closer to the end of last year? Because it's all kind of a blur to me now.
Uh, no, I think it was. Let me look because I can't remember. I was thinking it was this year, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to tell anybody wrong.
And while you're looking up, I mean, just for those, people, all the people who don't necessarily know what we're referring to, the WWE, they had two tournaments going on at the same time. It wasn't like a one night tournament. It was spread out over a couple of weeks. You had the King of the Ring, which was the men's tournament, and those were good knock hard, solid matches, good like 10, 15-minute matches. And then you had the Queen's Crown tournament, which grand
Yeah,
total of what was it, 8 matches, 7 matches. You know, um, it was a grand
yeah,
total of like 15 minutes, period, like cumulative.
yeah.
So that was absolutely ridiculous.
It was last year,
It was
actually.
last year, okay? Because I
Yeah.
know the last
Um.
match was in
hmm
Saudi, but I couldn't remember if it was at Crown Jewel or if it was their other event they do. But it must have been a Crown Jewel.
No, it was toward the end. They started the tournament. Yeah, they started the tournament like in October of last year, and then yeah, Crown Jewel was where the finals happened. And but yeah, just another indictment to the poor booking of the women's division under John Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
So
But like I said, I mean, they were the women's division. It was, like you're playing pole position. You remember that game back in the day?
oh
And
yeah, yep,
yeah, you've ran out, your time has run out, but your car, you haven't ran out of gas yet, and you're like not hitting the brake. But as soon as you hit the finish
yeah,
line, all of a sudden you're going again.
yep,
That's what it feels like.
yep,
He left, and the wind. Whoop, we just got another lap. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, like you said, old clown shoes. And I like what's been happening lately with the women's division. However, before he stepped down or was asked to step down, before Vince was asked to step down, one of the biggest travesties in women's wrestling, and really wrestling period, happened when they asked the at the time the women's tag team champions. They had them in
yes,
some kind of match. They were going to put them in that. They weren't even defending their title, and they were going to have them going against each other for some ridiculous meaning nothing. But so they walked
well,
out. We had a whole show devoted to that one when they walked out,
yeah,
and they still haven't returned.
yep,
That was Sasha Banks and Naomi
yeah,
gone.
yep, yeah, and that was just yeah because they wanted to they won the titles, you know were putting in the work to bring some prestige to these championships that honestly WWE had never done well with or
Right.
never seemed like they cared about. So, Sasha and Naomi were trying to bring prestige back to these championships. Yeah, so the company's bright idea is to book them in matches against Ronda Rousey, who was the Raw Women's Champion at the time, and have both of them lose. Not defend their tag titles against any team, have them in singles matches against Ronda Rousey, and then both of them would lose to put over Ronda Rousey. But Ronda was the champion. So shouldn't you be getting put over on your way to the championship? Not once you're champion, then you have to have more established stars put you over.
Now,
It's
Joyland,
like I
that
didn't think
that
that's
makes
how it
too much
works.
sense. I mean, that makes too much sense. So,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
they put the belts on Laurinaitis's desk. They walked out. Neither one of them have been back. From what I understand, Sasha's contract is up. Um, they couldn't agree on money, basically because she knows her worth, and they're not willing to pay her for it. So she's not coming back. She doesn't have to. She is going to be at Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan's
mhm.
biggest show, beginning in January, and this is supposed to set off a feud with her and Kairi Sane over the IWGP Women's Championship. So that's amazing. Naomi's still kind of in limbo because from what I understand, she doesn't know if she wants to come back because coming back with Sasha is now no longer an option.
Right.
So, and then the company doesn't have anything for her, but she's still kind of in the company's good graces because she's married to Jimmy Uso.
Right.
So, I don't know where it's going to go with Naomi. I would love to see her back in the ring, but
I'd love to
I
see
don't
her
know.
join the Bloodline because it would make sense.
Oh yeah, I don't
You
know why
know,
they didn't do that. I don't know why they didn't do that with her and when Nia Jax was there. I don't understand why
yeah,
they
I
didn't
guess
add them
because they're
to
related.
Bloodline. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
oh, but yeah, of course, we did a whole episode just based on the Sasha and Naomi when they walked out.
Hmm.
Some of the other
Yeah.
big news. Actually, you know what? If I start at the beginning of the year, something we actually forgot about because we haven't really mentioned it since because all these other huge things have been happening. But at the time, this was kind of big, but it didn't make the headlines like I think the way it should. When Shane McMahon got fired.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I what on what culture they called him the sweatiest man alive. Uh because I mean Shane could walk to the ring and he's just pouring sweat. Shane thinks he's the toughest man in the world. Tried to book himself to be the biggest star in the Royal Rumble this past year. Uh, Booked himself to go strike for strike with Matt Riddle.
Mm-mm.
Um, Wanted to book himself to go strike for strike with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar vetoed that real quick. Was like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing that. Um, Basically, Shane just tried to book the Rumble around himself. And as soon as he got eliminated and went to the back, he was fired by his father.
Yep. Because I mean, I will say that. I mean, I had that actually did get me get Vince some respect points from me because he's like, I don't care if you're my son.
Mhm.
That was ridiculous, and you just made a mockery of the. Yeah, Vince McMahon's telling
Yeah,
somebody else, you just made a mockery
he's
of this
making a
sport.
mockery. Yeah,
But he did.
and
I mean,
not only
it was horrible. That
yeah,
that was the worst.
and not,
I'd have to say that's probably the worst Rumble I've ever seen.
same. And they've had some poor ones over the
They've had some bad ones.
years, but that one was just. Uh, but it wasn't just Shane's behavior in the Rumble match. It was the way he was treating agents and stuff and people backstage. Like he was, you know, being extremely rude and aggressive with agents who didn't agree with how he wanted to book the Rumble, and just Shane has just gotten extremely full of himself and thinks he's this world class professional wrestler, and it's like, dude, you've been a solid, not even part-time wrestler at best. You're not on the level of these men who do this 300 days a year. So
Right.
stop trying to put yourself on that level. Just because you're the boss's son does not mean that you're on that level, because you haven't put in that work.
Right. And yes, we know you jump off the top of a Hell in a Cell like once or twice a year, and then you take a lot of time to recover from that. The other guys who are
Exactly.
doing that, they're wrestling the very next night, and so
Uh-huh.
oh, yeah, so
Yep.
they are tougher than you are. I mean, and I say that with a straight face. They are tougher than him. You can just see it right
Yeah.
there's the proof. Oh,
Yeah. And
and
especially when he's
ooh,
trying to match himself up to Matt Riddle, who is a, former UFC fighter, and Brock Lesnar, who is legitimately probably the greatest combat sport athlete ever. And it's like, how do you think you're going to match up with either of these two guys? Two legitimate strikers, and you think you're going to match up with them? It's like, no,
I don't even
no.
remember who won the Rumble. I mean, I'm being dead honest. But I do not remember who won the Rumble because it was that bad. I tried to put it out of my
It was
memory.
it was it was Brock.
Was it
Brock
Brock?
won the Rumble.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I could not. I couldn't
Brock
remember.
Brock lost the WWE title earlier that night, and then
And then went in the
was in
Rumble.
the
That's right.
Rumble and won the Rumble.
Which
Hmm.
would have made for a good story had it not already been used a couple years before by Becky Lynch.
There you go. Yep.
Yep. I don't think she lost the title that night,
Yep.
but I mean, I knew she lost the match, and then she had. Or I
Yeah,
don't remember.
she ended up having to submit to Asuka. Yeah, she was challenging for the SmackDown Women's title. Ended up having to submit to the Asuka lock, but then who was it?
Lana,
Why am I drawing a blank? Rusev's
Lana,
wife.
yeah, Lana,
Lana. Yeah,
yeah.
Lana got injured, and Lana got injured. Becky took her place. Ended up winning. It was much more interesting when Becky did it than when Brock did it.
Yep, but that's a very well. I want to say it's a very forgettable Rumble, but unfortunately, I can't forget the fact that it just was horrible. Um, but something else, I don't. I
Yep.
still haven't watched. There's another match that I still have not watched. I don't know if I want to watch it. Ric Flair had what was advertised as being his last match.
Oh, I've heard that match was okay. On Flair's part, I've heard that match was terrible.
Yeah,
Andrade, Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, they carried that match. They did the best they could, but Flair just looked, from the clips that I've seen. I've never been able to see the entire match, but just the clips that I've seen, it's sad. It's extremely sad, and it's a giant blemish on the career of the greatest world champion wrestling has ever seen. It's like, you got to know when to stop. And Flair still at mid 70s has not learned when to stop. And he puts on this match. They make a big deal of it. It was the same weekend as SummerSlam. It was Sunday at I think it was at the Municipal Auditorium in Nashville. And they had a good card. They had a good undercard, but that was the main event, was Flair and Andrade versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. And Flair even faked a heart attack during the match. It's like,
tasteless.
dude, you're this close to having a real one anyway. Why would you do that? I mean, you were just at death's door, you know, not too long ago, legitimately at death's door. He was hospitalized. They didn't think he was going to make it. Then you pretend to have a heart attack in this match that you never should have been in the first place. Um, It's just it's just sad. It was just to me, it was just a money grab because they knew people would buy. They knew they'd sell that out and people would buy tickets to see Flair's last match. They knew they'd sell pay-per-views, and it's like, for what? I mean, if you paid for it to see the undercard, then okay. But if you paid for it to see the main event and watch Ric Flair wrestle, then you got robbed because all you saw was a sad old man barely able to go.
And it was also Jeff Jarrett's last match, but of course that was kind of lost in all the hype.
Yeah, yeah. It was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett's last match, but actually he has wrestled in AEW
Ah,
since
okay.
because
So
him and Jay Lethal have become a tag team and they're chasing the tag titles.
okay. Oh, speaking of SummerSlam, I'd say as far as like personal wrestling things, I don't think that anything could top that for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, for me, that was my
oh,
first like WWE pay-per-view. It was in Nashville. Me and my wife went. It was my birthday present. My birthday's in July. SummerSlam was the end of July, so it was just awesome. We had a great time, and it was just an amazing atmosphere. The show was good. Um, it was just a great time. It was awesome. One of my bucket list things I was able to knock off.
and you made contact with the guys from the Wrestling Society podcast, and we've actually,
I did.
yeah, um, because then it was a couple months later, but I mean they all of a sudden you were hitting us up, and we're trying to arrange something with them as well. Uh,
Yeah,
there's a lot of conflicts with all of our schedules though, just because when everybody is available to record. So I really hope
yeah,
we can. Yeah, I mean, I really, really hope we can get something going with them because I think that'll be another great time because
yeah. I hope so.
they've got some really grand ideas, and I'm like, wow, okay,
Mhm.
even if
Yeah,
I can't be involved, which I'd love to be involved, definitely keep an eye on it because I mean, they think big. I mean, we think big. Don't get me wrong. We're always trying to grow, but I mean, they're thinking like really big.
yeah,
And so I mean, now I didn't have that, but I did go to a couple of events in Chillicothe, Ohio. They were put on by Bobby Fulton, formerly of the Fantastics, and cancer survivor Bobby Fulton. I just figured I'd throw that in there.
hmm
Had a couple of fan
yep.
fests. Oh, the fan fest. The first one we went to, and I took my son. And at first he was like, I don't know who any of these people are. And then he pulled up his phone. And then he pulled up his phone and he went to Wikipedia and he started punching in the names. And then after a couple of them, he said, "Oh my God, these people are famous." And I'm like, "Yes." I said, "That's why we're here." Um, and and I mean,
Yeah.
and then I mean, um, this was just a couple days after we interviewed Buff Bagwell, also, and so I
hmm
was able to actually meet him in person and gave him one of our shirts that you can get at
Yep.
tpublic.com/user/armchair-booking-podcast. I want to throw that in there. And yeah, we got to meet him, the entire, well, a couple guys at the NWO. Met Tully Blanchard and JJ Dillon. Had a picture made with them. Met Barry Windham. Didn't get
Yeah.
a picture made with him, but met Barry Windham.
Right.
Talked to Ricky Steamboat for a while. Super nice guy, and he was right beside Tommy Rich. And then I bought that belt, one of the belts sitting behind me,
Yep.
the
10
NWA
pounds of
World
gold.
10 pounds of gold right here. And I bought that belt. And Wildfire Tommy Rich, a former NWA champion, and that was the belt that he wore. He
hmm
signed it. You know, um, and I talked to Ricky Steamboat, and I was like, "Was this the belt that you had?" I said, "He's like, nope." He said, "I had the big gold." And I was like,
hmm
because I would have had him sign it too, but it just,
Oh yeah.
but I mean, he got it. I mean, but they were all super great. To my son, after he really understood. I mean, I was like, "That's Ricky Steamboat." I said, "You don't get it." I mean, that's former world champion, former Intercontinental champ, because he had the Intercontinental belt, and
Right.
took a picture with him. I mean, um, then the next time, we went, because I know I'm missing some other people that we met as well. The next time we went, it was like 6 months later. We met the Perfect 10, Baby Doll, Nicola Roberts, who we've been trying to get her
Hmm.
on the show. Her schedule is
Yeah.
very, very tight. I mean, she stays real busy. And so, but she is willing to come on the show. She said she would, but we just have to, we have to arrange it well ahead of time. We can't, this,
Right.
a lot of the people we get on, I mean, we can
Yeah.
usually schedule it within like a week or two. With her, we're going to have to really push that out. And so, and it has to be like, we'd have
Oh
to,
yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
basically have to take time off from work to do it, because that's just the way her schedule is. So, and but we always try to
Yeah.
we've always
Yep.
been we're flexible. We try to revolve it around there. So, um, I met Sam
Hmm.
Houston at the first one, and he was also, because speaking of Nicole Roberts, you got to mention her ex-husband Sam Houston. He was at both
Oh yeah.
events. You know, Jake Roberts was at this one. He was extremely nice. He actually talked to Leighton for a little bit. Just asked him how he was doing, how he was enjoying it. I mean,
Awesome.
super nice guy. And um, met Kane, and I mentioned to Kane, I was like, hey, I was like, you both had that in common. I said you were both born in military bases overseas, and he's like, what? And so him and Leighton were talking about that, and so, but though that both those events were just great. I mean, just being able to meet all these
Yeah.
guys and girls that, I mean, we watched on TV when we were growing up, and now here they are. And but some of the things that I saw was cool, and I mentioned this on the episode that we recorded right after all those, was when you see the wrestlers, and I want to say it, Shane Douglas and the Warlord were the two I saw doing this. When Shane Douglas walked up to the Warlord,
Hmm.
and Warlord stood up and grabbed him, gave him a big old hug, and things like that. And that's when you got to
Yeah.
remember. I mean, we see them as the people, and we talked about this on the Wrestling with the Truth. But then they see each other. It's like, hey Shane, hey Terry, because I think the Warlord, his real name is Terry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were happy to see. I mean, and so they know each other on a human level, not just a performer level.
Professional. Yeah.
Yes, and I thought that was also pretty cool. But that was like my big wrestling things. Besides going to a lot,
Excuse me.
besides going to a lot of NWF shows, love going to the NWF shows.
Mhm.
It's always a good time.
That's
Um,
one of my goals for this year is to make it up your way and go to an NWF show.
well, you always got a place to stay here.
Yep.
Um, if you get here before Avery comes back, that's in late April, by the way.
Hmm.
You can always sleep in her room. If she's back, well, you probably just have to sleep on the couch.
Right.
you know, um,
I'll be sure to bring my CPAP machine because
yeah,
y'all
bring your
won't be able to
CPAP.
sleep without
Oh,
it.
don't worry. I mean, I got the CPAP. My wife has the CPAP. We're a bunch of CPAP people. Now a dog may look at, or one of the dogs may look at you kind of funny, like, who's that?
Yeah.
But
Who's that guy?
who's that guy? Um, Fortunately, I don't have any neighbors who, as far as I know, may wonder, we saw the guy, but there's something about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't think we have any, not that I've
Right.
seen, that are like that. So, and if they are like that, they haven't said anything to me, and I'm like, well, good,
Hmm.
because you know what I'm talking about. And
I
so,
do.
yep. But but yeah, you got to come up there and catch an NWF show, and I know the NWF talent roster will be extremely happy if you could make
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
because they have met you across Zoom. They've never
Hmm.
met you in person. Um,
Right.
but of course, you've met Devin, obviously Devin Graves,
Yep. Yep. We
because
used to work together. Yeah.
yeah, so you knew Devin outside of wrestling,
Hmm.
so um, yeah, he's another great interview. We need to get him
Oh
back on
yeah.
the show too. Um,
Yep.
and because last time when we had him on the panel, he had a belt behind him, and the first thing I said
Yeah.
before we started recording, I was like, "You got gold." He's like, "I got gold." I was like, "All right." But some of the other big stories, the big meltdown in AEW with CM Punk and then all the executives.
Yeah, brawl out is what they're calling it.
Yeah, it's like, um, you know that when you slapped an executive title on somebody, it's not just a title. There are certain expectations as far as your behavior.
Yeah, and everybody was out of line. It's like
Yeah.
some people are defending the elite and putting all the
Mm,
blame on CM Punk. It was blame on both sides. Everybody was extremely unprofessional, from CM Punk and the way he conducted himself during the media scrum, uh, the way he conducted himself in the locker room afterwards, the way the elite confronted him, and their behavior. Ace Steel biting Kenny Omega. Um,
seriously.
yeah, throwing a chair, hitting Nick Jackson in the face. It's like all of this could have been avoided. All of this could have been taken care of with a sit down conversation, and for CM Punk to be professional in front of the media and
Hmm.
just, give the post match interview and leave your other thoughts, you know, for your Twitter page or whatever. But he took it too far with what he was saying to the media. And then you don't badmouth your some of your bosses to the media. But then your bosses don't bum rush you at your locker room either. So it's like everybody was at fault and
Yeah.
everybody was equally at fault. So I don't know
Yeah.
where CM Punk's future lies. Um, Rumor had it that he was trying to get a buyout of his contract and AEW wouldn't do that, but of course that's all speculation. Of
Yep.
course, the Elite are finally back from suspension, um, putting on a great series of matches with Death Triangle over the World Trios Championship. Um, like professionally inside the ring, three of the best wrestlers you're going to find with the Elite, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Outside the ring, they need to conduct themselves better as executives.
Hmm.
One, my opinion is it's hard. You've seen over the years, it is hard for talent to be an executive also and keep those two roles separate. I mean, we've seen it with Flair, we've seen it with Dusty, we've seen it with Kevin Nash, we've seen it with a lot of guys over the years to where, oh, well, I'm a booker or I'm an executive in the company, but I'm also a wrestler and I'm also wanting to get my spotlight and championships and things like that. And then it kind of just it blurs that line. It's like, where does the executive stop and the wrestler begin, and vice versa?
Right. And I mean, I do get the adage of, well, I know if I put the belt on me, I'm not going anywhere. But
I get that, and it worked a little while for Vern Gagne, but if you're going that route, you need to take lessons from Vern Gagne because that's a lot of what destroyed the AWA. That's a
mhm,
lot of what because Vern was so paranoid that everybody would leave that he wanted to put the belt on. He just kept putting it on himself, and
himself
you
and
can't
Nick
grow your
Bockwinkel.
yeah, you can't grow your company if you don't spread the championship around because people will get tired of the same person. If you don't believe us, look at John Cena.
Hmm.
People get tired of the same person with the championship all the time. Look at Triple H's Reign of Terror back,
Yes.
back in like 2002 to 2004. People were exhausted with Triple H being the world heavyweight champion, and it's like you've got to spread that around. And I know people will be like, "Well, Roman's been champion for pushing 3 years," but it's been interesting. Is the
Yeah.
thing the whole thing with Roman, from him turning heel to forming the bloodline to the stuff with Sami Zayn, the SummerSlam match with Brock Lesnar, all of that has been interesting. As long as it's interesting, I don't mind a champion holding a belt for a long time. But if it's just boring and makes no sense, why keep the title on somebody?
And they're not hot potato in the belt. the way that they have in the past, which
Exactly,
is, you know,
which is a good
it's
thing.
yeah. I mean, they can say, well, Roman Reigns, well, he's only held the belt what 4 times now. Yeah, but
Uh,
just one of his,
yeah, I think this is, yeah,
and but
I think it's
one of his,
four, maybe five.
um, but it's at least four. We know that. So, and
Yeah, at least four.
and his reign now is more time cumulative, or his more time with the belt than the cumulative time of The Rock and Stone Cold combined, I would guess.
Yes.
Because
Yep. You were absolutely because yeah.
The Rock didn't
I
hold the
mean, The
belt
Rock
that
had
long. I
10
mean, he
world title
didn't.
reigns. No, I think they said that The Rock's whole entire title reign combined, 10-time world champion, was probably wasn't even a year, maybe a little over 200 days because they hot potatoed the title so much during the Attitude Era.
Hmm. Let me see.
Austin
List
held
of.
it 6 times. Again, hot potatoed the title during the Attitude Era.
Hmm. Let me see. Um, I think going by number of days, Bruno Sammartino, of course, is number one. Um, Hogan number
Yep.
two, Backlund number three,
Hmm.
Cena.
Yep.
Um, Pedro Morales. Pedro Morales, his one reign was a
Yeah, but
thousand twenty-three
Cena's is
days.
yeah, because like the list that they always give, and I looked up was Roman is has the fifth longest world championship reign, like single reign, not
Single
cumulative,
reign. Right.
in WWE history. One single reign. There's Backlund, Pedro. I mean, there's San Martino, Pedro, Backlund, Hogan, Reigns.
Hmm. Um, he's already passed up The Rock as far as like days.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm sure he's passed Austin already too.
Not well. This only says 388 days plus. I'm like, he's held it longer than that. I thought.
Who, Austin?
Well, you know
No,
what? But
because during the
this,
Attitude Era, he would only hold it a few months at a time, and then he'd lose it and then get it back. Or like his
well,
last title reign, his very last one, he was in 2001. He lost to Kurt Angle. That was right after 9/11. Uh, he lost to Kurt Angle. Then the next week on Raw, he won it back. So he lost the title. 6 days later, he wins it back.
you know what? They're the Universal Championship. They're not including Reigns' number of days with
Hmm.
that. So
Hmm.
so maybe that's part. That's why it's saying only 388 days for Reigns, and I'm like, that's not right. That cannot be right. Um,
Yeah,
so the
yeah,
Universal title is not included as part of that. That's a totally separate thing, but it should still. I don't care. I just wish they would unify those titles and just be
yeah.
done
It
with it.
should still count. A lot of that though is corporate stuff because Fox wants a world champion on their
Hmm.
show. USA Network wants a champion on their show. And unless you can get these two TV entities to agree, then they're never going to unify the championship, truly unify the championship, because they want world champions on each show.
Well, and see,
I
this is
think it
when you
makes more
go
sense to have just,
one, one, one champion
yeah,
goes
one.
back and forth.
That, yeah, exactly. Just like they do with the tag titles. I mean, right now the tag titles are unified and nobody's clamoring for a set of tag titles on Raw and a set of tag titles on SmackDown because they know that wasn't working. But by having the Usos be the undisputed tag team champions, they can float back and forth.
Yep. Speaking of the Usos, one of my biggest things, and this, I don't know if everybody would consider it's kind of a big news story, but Sami Zayn, him becoming part of the bloodline has just been absolute gold.
Oh my God, it has been so good. It has been amazing. It has been great for Sami Zayn's career because for the longest, it was like he was stuck in the mid card when we knew he was so much better than that. Not just the in ring stuff, which he's an excellent professional wrestler. I've watched him since he was El Generico in Ring of Honor. Excellent professional wrestler, but his wrestling knowledge and how to hold the crowd's attention in the palm of your hand, his mic skills, his mannerisms, all of that is if newer wrestlers want to take a lesson of how to get yourself over, watch Sami Zayn since he's joined the bloodline because that's how you do it. That's how you get yourself over.
And he finally cracked the entire bloodline with one word.
With one word and one shot, he got all of them, Paul Heyman included. He got everybody with Usi.
Usi.
And
and I was watching
everybody. He even got Solo to crack a smile. And it was just as soon as he said it, Jimmy Uso about dropped his tag titles and about fell on the mat laughing. Heyman's over there grinning. Jay Uso is covering his face, but you could see he's laughing.
Well, because
Roman
Jay
is just grinning. And
I mean, remember him and Jay were supposed to be like, Jay was supposed to
they
get
were
mad at him,
butting
and when he
heads.
did that, I mean, who had to cover his whole mouth
Yeah, and
because
he tried. Yeah, he tried to turn away from the hard cam, and Roman's like, "No, we may as well just lean into it. Come on," because Roman's already laughing, and it's like it was so good. And then his performance in the Survivor Series, the War Games match, where he still wasn't sure where his allegiance was, whether it was with the Bloodline or Kevin Owens, and then he showed his allegiance to the Bloodline, and just the story has been fantastic. And the payoff is going to be when the Bloodline turns on Sami.
Yep.
And then Sami and Kevin Owens will reunite, and that's going to blow the roof off because a lot of people are like me and they have followed these guys for 15 years and they know that they are best friends in real life
Mm-hmm.
and that they've traveled the world together. And that is going to be such a huge pop when the bloodline turns on him and Kevin Owens has his back. That's going to be amazing. Quality long term storytelling, which is something that WWE was lacking. Huh?
That's your next tag team champions right there.
Absolutely. I'm saying it now. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are going to beat the Usos at WrestleMania for the tag team titles because that's a WrestleMania match. That's where that match should happen because that's going to be. They want to talk about a WrestleMania moment. That is a WrestleMania moment.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of WrestleMania moments, there was a return at this past WrestleMania.
Yep. Stone Cold Steve Austin had his first match in 19 years.
Actually, wasn't even. I totally forgot about that one. I was actually talking about Cody.
Oh yeah, Cody came back. That's right. We forgot about Cody. Yeah, Cody left AEW, had a stellar match on the way out, put over Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship, and then signed with WWE. Except this time, he came as the American Nightmare with his music, with everything that goes along with that character. Because Cody was in a position this time to where WWE needed him. He didn't need WWE. I mean, he had already helped start a company. He already had a spot here. But there was some, financial issues, contract issues in AEW. And so he went where he felt he could make the most money. I have no issue with that, especially in any kind of sport. Make your money while you can, while your body holds up to be able to do what you do. But that pop at WrestleMania when he came out, everybody knew it was Cody.
Yeah.
But still, as soon as it started before his music and it says wrestling has more than one royal family, that crowd lost their mind. And then when he came up through the stage, that was it. That was just amazing. And then he had a phenomenal series of matches with Seth Rollins, and honestly has proved himself to be the toughest professional wrestler in the world right now, because he
Hmm.
completely tore his pectoral muscle off the bone and wrestled a Hell in a Cell match with it, and didn't bandage it up. He didn't shy away from it. They they fed into it when Seth would attack that, his pec, and it just, the look, that black and purple look, just really added to the danger of Hell in a Cell.
That was one of the ugliest sights I think I've ever seen in wrestling. Though was
Yeah,
that
he
was
took that jacket off, and you could hear the crowd just gasp when he took his robe off, and they saw the extent of how bad that injury was. And then he put on a classic in one of the
hmm
greatest Hell in a Cell matches ever against Seth Rollins, won that match, and then he's recovering. Expect him to return at the Rumble.
and so that was one of the things. I mean, he was like the biggest news story, and then he was gone because
Mhm.
he got hurt really
Yep.
bad.
Yeah.
But if we want to have like categories, for this year, to me, the biggest surprise, because really Cody leaving AEW wasn't that much of a surprise because it had been talked about for, a couple of
Yeah.
months leading up to it. But to me, the biggest surprise was the performance Logan Paul put on at Crown Jewel.
Wow. Yeah, he did good. Much better than expected with his tag match with The Miz at WrestleMania. His match at SummerSlam was excellent, especially the frog splash from the top rope through the table onto The Miz. Uh, was great, especially seeing that live was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, his performance against Roman at Crown Jewel was, nobody that new to the business should have been that good. And yes, was he was trained for that match by Shawn Michaels, which of course gives you amazing credibility when one of the best ever is training you. But still, that was his third match, and he looked like he'd been doing this for years.
Yeah. And he put his heart and soul into it and ended up tearing his ACL and MCL.
Yes. Yep.
Or something. Yeah. And he hurt himself during the match. I mean, he finished the
Hmm.
match,
Oh yeah.
and
They think he heard it with the top rope elbow spot through the announce table. They think that's when they heard it. Originally, they thought it was when he did the buckshot lariat, but they're actually thinking now it was how he landed after the elbow drop. But either way, he still toughed it through and finished that
yeah,
match.
yeah, and just to show, I mean, he had been put into work. He has a lot of respect for the sport. He doesn't have him or his
Hmm.
brothers worse. They don't respect for anything else, but they have a lot of respect
Right.
for wrestling, and it showed.
Yeah. And kudos to Roman, because Roman made him look like $1 million. Roman sold everything like it was a death shot. So kudos to Roman for also putting in the work and helping get Logan Paul over.
Oh, I mean, that one was. Um, I'm still. I mean, I need to go back and rewatch that match just to say, was he really that good? And go, yeah, I mean, he really was. And of course, here lately, the biggest news story has been um, Mandy Rose getting
Yep.
fired, which led us to ask the question. And honestly, I mean, I've talked to other. It kind of led other people to kind of ask the same question of how much control should the companies have over um, the performers, like in their personal life.
Right.
And
Exactly. Because Mandy Rose gets fired because it had to have been a fan. Mandy Rose has a
No, they came
subscription
out.
fan
They
page.
said who it was. Matt Bloom.
Really?
Yeah, they said.
Oh
I
my
want. I
God.
want to say they came out and said it was Matt Bloom. Said, which means
Ah,
he subscribed.
which
Either
means he had
or
to.
somebody,
Yeah,
a fan may have told him. Somebody may have
yeah.
told him, but yeah, he was the one who ran it up the chain and said,
Well,
"Hey,
here's my thing.
yeah,
Matt Bloom, stop snitching on people. She was not hurting anybody. She was making her money. She had a uh, fan site to where they could get exclusive content if they paid the premium. She wasn't doing anything illegal. And I didn't know it was him. So he snitches on her. So they make her drop the NXT Women's Championship and then fire her the next day. Mandy Rose had completely reinvented herself and become a so much better professional wrestler, going back to NXT and turning heel and forming Toxic Attraction. 414 days as the NXT Women's Champion, and then just to be fired for something that isn't wrong. She had a business venture outside of WWE. You had a billionaire chairman spending tens of millions of dollars in hush money because there were sexual assault allegations against Vince McMahon, but you're going to fire Mandy Rose for doing something completely legal and on her own time.
And
But
like we said on
really,
the show, if
mm-hmm,
it's not in their contract, you
yeah,
can't
if it's not in
stop
her
them."
contract, and I still haven't seen anything that says she was in breach of contract.
Exactly.
So, and that would have came out by now if she was actually in breach of contract. Um, I think what it was is she was making more money with her fan site than she was probably making with her WWE contract. They also never like the fact that a performer is able to make money outside of WWE and they want to put their hands in the performer's pockets and get some of that
Right.
money. But in turn, all they did was make it better for Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose has made $500,000 from her fan site since she got fired.
Which makes me want to say, you know what? We need to be friends with Mandy Rose.
Yeah, because her subscription price was $20. She upped it to 40 after she was fired. And the day she got fired, upped it to 40. She has made half $1 million already. They said by the end of this year, which is, this week, she will
Yeah.
probably be a millionaire before the year's up. And it's
Uh,
like,
there are 2 days left in the
so
year.
y'all did not hurt her at all. I mean,
Nope.
wrestling wise, you still didn't hurt her. She could go somewhere else and still, with the way she's improved and what she's learned about her character work and everything, she could easily go to another company and wrestle. If she doesn't want to wrestle anymore, she still has this business venture, which is bringing her in, I'm sure, more money than she was making the entire time she was in WWE. So
I still
I
want to
look
be
at
friend.
it.
I still want to be friends with her. She'd buy us
Oh
ice
yeah,
cream.
oh yeah,
She
sure,
would. I mean,
absolutely.
um, but yeah, so she's got future plans. Now, one of the things I have in my notes I definitely want to bring up is some of our future plans for the
Hmm.
show, because right now we are still got, and I haven't actually talked about it in like a week because just trying to get everything with
Hmm.
Christmas and everything up. But we are trying to get a series going on, and it's actually started with our interview on Wrestling with the Truth with BC and Jay on why we are wrestling fans.
Right, right.
And so I've already talked to 4 people who said they would come on, and um, and it's 4 people with various backgrounds,
Hmm.
um, and they're all big wrestling fans.
Right.
You know, and in fact, I want to say at least BC. I'd like to have both BC and Jay on the
Hmm.
show. And they're the only ones who have any kind of, I guess you want to say, affiliation with, like, because I don't really call us like official,
Hmm.
like officially connected with Red. We're very loosely connected. You know, um,
Right.
especially like we are loosely associated with the NWF because we've had so many interviews
Hmm.
with them, and they've been great to us as well. I can't put
Yeah.
them over enough. I mean, they've been fantastic. Um, but BCJ, same thing. I mean, so they're the only ones that have any kind of connection already with wrestling. The other ones, one kind of, because they've become friends with Chris Jericho,
Yeah. Yeah.
and um, and then the other ones, the other two so far are friends of ours.
Yep.
Um, you know, and of course, the funny thing is you haven't actually met them face to face, but if you come up here, I know you'll meet at least one of them. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, that's something I'm actually looking forward to because it's like I said, the idea popped in my head, and now I mean I'd love to see it come to fruition, just like what we did last year with the panel show. I don't think this would,
Hmm.
I don't think this would lend itself to a panel show because it would. I don't think it would lend itself great to that, because not everybody would have that commonality. It's like, okay, you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Well, that's too broad,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
Yeah.
and and so I mean, I'm just looking forward to getting all that scheduled because I mean, people have conflicts because people, they have families um
Right.
and they work, because we work.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we work. But let me say it again. I like my job. I do actually like my job.
Right.
I just don't like working a ton of hours at my job when I can't have a life outside. Now, fortunately, that's kind of
Yeah.
calmed down. But when I can't do the armchair booking podcast because I'm working,
Hmm.
you know, it's like, but things have calmed down, and I'll be there for until I don't know when now. So,
Right.
because I still got to pay the bills, and I
Oh yeah.
just yeah, a credit card I just had paid off. I just dropped $1,200 on it to fix my car.
Right.
It had all sorts of things wrong with it. That was not fun. but but yeah, we're looking at doing more cross promotions. Of course, the first one obviously is Wrestling with the Truth, and then the Wrestling Society. I want to do something with the Dad World Order, if we can. There's definitely schedule conflictions there because they go live right before we start recording on like today. So unless we can
Hmm.
somehow manage to get a joint thing where we're all broadcasting together at the same time, that one may be a little
Right.
tougher. But that would be a great time. And definitely more interviews. We've already been in talks with people trying to get interviews with NWF. I want to try to get some others from outside, NWF, maybe some retired wrestlers. And one thing I need to definitely mention, and because I actually looked this up right before we went on, um, we lost five. There was only five. I was actually kind of surprised, but we lost five. Wrestling people who were pretty famous in wrestling. Antonio Inoki
Hmm.
was one of them.
Yep.
Tim White, um, Dave
Hmm.
Hebner, Judo Gene LaBelle, and the one which hit
Yep.
us pretty hard the most, Scott Hall.
Scott Hall. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
We found
That
that.
was that was a hard one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad that they all passed, but yeah, Scott Hall was, especially since he had done so much work to get
Hmm.
himself in a better place, physically, mentally, he got clean, he
Hmm.
was healthy, and then he was gone.
And we found out 15 minutes before we were hitting record. And it's like, and
Yeah.
we caught it. We
Yep.
caught an audible right there on the fly. We're like, whatever. I don't even remember what we were originally going to talk about. Um,
I don't either, but it's like, nope,
it
we got to talk
changed
about
right
Scott.
then, and that
Hmm.
one took a little bit for me to even get through like the first 10 minutes of it because I
Yeah.
never thought I'd get that emotional about somebody I'd never met, but because it just hit, and so you had to take over like the first. Yeah, I couldn't even speak for a little
Yeah.
bit. So,
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, I still think we did a pretty good job. You know,
Oh yeah.
um, even though I was a blubbering idiot, but I mean, you took it and ran with it. And I was like, and see, Um, Dwaylen is the encyclopedia, and that's why he is Delicious Dwaylen. Which, by the way, that also happened this year. You
Yep.
acquired your new nickname, which is now stuck, dude. Sorry. I mean, you need to
Oh
get
yeah,
a shirt.
that's
You
it.
need to get a shirt that says delicious.
I'll have to have my
So
wife make me one.
there you go. Um, and while we're on a kind of a down note, I do want to mention this, um, just because you see it a lot here lately. I mean, mental health has become a big subject, for us.
Hmm.
It's also been a big subject just in general. I see a lot of people on social media posting about it. I've seen one particular wrestler, female, she's actually posted, quite a bit about it,
Hmm.
as far as that. And if you have mental health issues, I mean, I'll say this to anybody, it is nothing to be ashamed of. Joelle and I were talking
No,
yesterday.
nothing at all.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking yesterday, and you didn't even know. I mean, I've been seeing mental health professionals since 2011,
Hmm.
and you knew I'd seen some, but not you didn't realize it'd gone back that far. I'm like, yeah, um,
Right, right,
so, but I mean, but it wasn't anything I was trying to hide. I mean, it was just I've been doing it for so long, I just
right.
don't even,
Yeah,
I just don't even think about it. And I will always
yeah,
encourage anybody. Now they even have a hotline you can call just for that, 988. Yeah, you have 911. Now
yeah.
you have
Hmm.
988. So that way you don't have to memorize.
Yep.
Unfortunately, a suicide hotline. It's like, oh, what's the number? No, 988. If
Yeah.
you have any of those kind of feelings, 988.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a commander once,
Yeah.
Ginger.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had a commander, Ginger Wallace, Lieutenant Colonel Ginger Wallace, who, by the way, is from Cadiz, Kentucky. Just want to throw that in there.
Okay.
Um, Commander's call one time. She said, "Admitting you need help is not a sign of weakness; it is a sign of strength, because you are coming out, you're being brave and admitting you
Yeah.
need help." Um, and I will say, 2 years ago today, those who've been listening to the show for a long time, you may remember this. There was a podcaster out of Canada. He was actually out of Winnipeg, named Jordan Garber, and he had actually reached out. And this was when the podcast was only like 3 months old, 4 months old. But he had,
Hmm.
he hit us up on like the Facebook page. I managed to. His was the very first podcast I ever went on, and and he was interviewing not just wrestlers. I mean, he was interviewing like other sports people. Um, but he actually he was really helping promote us. I knew he
Hmm.
I knew also Jordan was very open about his drug use, and so I knew he was struggling some.
Hmm.
I didn't realize how bad, but
Yeah.
2 years ago today, I sent him a message through Twitter just to say, "Hey Jordan, how you doing? We haven't talked in a while. I just want to try to catch up, and maybe we can collaborate again in the future." And about a month later, I found out he had taken his own life the day before. And I
Oh
had been,
Lord.
yeah, I had been wanting to reach out to him. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Wanted to reach out to him. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. The hell with that. I never say I'll do it tomorrow anymore. And that's,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
So don't ever think, well, I'll reach out to that person tomorrow. No, if you're worried about him now, reach out to him now. And that's what I say.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. I should have done it 2 days prior to that, at least, probably more.
Right. Yeah.
But that's I just want to put that out there because I have some other friends who aren't necessarily wrestling fans. They don't necessarily listen to the podcast, but they're going through some issues as well. A lot of them military, because you know, um, you do 20 plus years in the military. I mean, it'll take its toll on you, but it's not just a military thing, and that's what people need to understand. Um, PTSD is real. It's also
Hmm.
not just a military thing. Sometimes we hold on to things from the
Yeah.
past, and we just hold on, and it's nothing is ever too big for us to get help. So on
Exactly.
it. So I mean, that's what I tell people. It's nothing wrong with getting help. I encourage it. I do it. I've
Yeah.
been seeing. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll be starting therapy January 10th. I did my new patient intake For myself yesterday, got, paperwork filled out and all that stuff. Talked to the lady who's going to be my therapist. It was just time. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff. I told Steve before we started recording, I've been dealing with mental health issues, especially severe anxiety and depression since I was about 15. And I've tried different medications over the years, several different medications, and they help, but I'm just at the point where I need more help than the medication can give. So there's absolutely nothing wrong. There's no shame in discussing your mental health. There's no shame in getting help for your mental health, because if you don't take care of yourself, especially it being a husband and a father and, a provider, if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of them.
Yep. As the saying go on a has to go on a, when they're giving you the safety briefing on the airplane, fix your own mask before you take care of your neighbors.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Because if you're trying to help them, all of a sudden it's too late for you to get yours. So, but on a
Yep.
more positive note, I mean, that's some of the things we have going on moving forward. But I'm really looking forward to the new year. We have, as of right now, we have 1 day and um, 1 day and 2 hours left, because
Yeah.
for me anyway, it's 10 o'clock my time. Um, so
Right.
well, I'm sorry, 2 days and 2 hours left, and in the year 2022. So there's a lot of twos involved in there. But
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to us growing again, because we really grew it this year with the help from a lot of people. We had a lot of support. Like, I've mentioned Ted the Hillbilly Hill. Been, he's been a great help to us. I mean, he had us
Hmm.
on his show. We were on his show. We were on Wrestling with the Truth. We were on TNC Sports Talk. I want to do that more, because
Yes.
it's a little different being the subject of the interview instead of doing the interview.
Yeah.
Because as much as what we prepare, all of a sudden we realize, okay, I don't know what questions they're going to ask, because sometimes they'll just come out of nowhere. You're like, oh, okay, not that they're meaning to catch us off guard, but they'll ask you something. You're like, oh, okay, and it's always I've always said we have not had a bad interview yet on the show, and we have not had a bad time being on anybody else's show either.
No.
And um, so we're looking forward to growing and expanding again. Even more. Hopefully, and I also found out one of the biggest surprises for us is when I found out we are on IMDb. I'm
Yeah.
still
That's
blown away by
crazy.
that. No idea how we got on there. Um, and I've looked up True Crime Cast, bless their hearts, by the way.
Hmm.
True Crime Cast is on IMDb. Bless their hearts is not.
Yeah.
And that's been going on
Yep.
longer than our podcast. And they're not, so there's got
Hmm.
to be some kind of connection. I'm thinking it's when we interviewed Buff that got us on there, so
Probably.
yeah, but
Probably
I
when
don't
we
know.
interviewed Buff and when we interviewed Chris Harris.
Yeah, Chris Harris is another one, because and he's another great guy. I want to get him back on the show. His
Hmm.
his work schedule has all of a sudden ramped up, because he's doing a lot of appearances on weekends outside of the NWF, a lot of fan fests and things like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Um, but yeah, it's going to be. I have a feeling, it's going to be a great year, because I think we're going to make it a great year. That no matter
Hmm.
what happens, I mean,
Absolutely.
we're always going to try to turn positive, make a positive out of something that people may perceive as a negative. So now I'm step back, take a look at
Hmm.
everything, and go. And I promise I will also not make knee jerk reactions, because I did do that a couple times this year about some situations, and I was a dummy. I admit it. I have no problems admitting when I'm dumb, but I think we'll make this year great. And everybody, send Dwaylen, hit him up on Twitter at fat_daddy73 and say
Hmm.
you need to make your way up to Cincinnati to go watch some NWF shows. So,
Yep.
because we got to make that happen this year. So,
Oh yeah, definitely.
um, but this is the last show of this year. So because I don't really foresee anything really big happening in wrestling over the next 2 days. At least I hope not. If it does, then
Nah.
well, we just wasted an entire show.
Right.
But until I see you next year, because
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
once again I will say good night, happy New Year, and God bless.
God bless. Happy New Year.